and you're a great college player, like Caitlin was, the delusional fan base that follows her disrespected the WNBA players by saying she's going to go in that league and tear it apart. There were actually odds on she's third or fourth in betting odds on being MVP of the WNBA. These people are so disrespectful and so unknowledgeable and so stupid.
She didn't clap back. She didn't tweet. She didn't explain herself. Caitlin Clark said everything with one quiet decision. A single no that cost someone else millions, stripped away decades of control, and exposed how power in women's basketball has actually changed. This isn't a highlight story. This is about disrespect, revenge, and the moment a gatekeeper realized the game no longer revolved around him. Caitlin Clark stepped back from well beyond the arc. 3 points in the air, swish, and the whistle blows. And one. The crowd erupts. The message is unmistakable. Caitlin Clark has arrived, and she is not asking for permission. That moment was not just another highlight. It was a signal, a reminder, a warning, because everything that followed was bigger than basketball, bigger than one shot, bigger than one season. This is a story about power, control, and what happens when the old gatekeepers realize too late that the game no longer revolves around them. For years, women's basketball ran through a familiar structure. Certain programs mattered more than others, certain voices carried more weight, and one name sat near the center of it all: Geno Auriemma. A legend, a dynasty builder, a coach whose approval once defined careers. If Geno believed in you, doors opened. If he didn't, they stayed closed. That was the reality for decades, until one player quietly rewrote the rules. Long before sold-out arenas, record-breaking TV ratings, and logo threes that bent the sport's gravity, Caitlin Clark was just a kid from Iowa with a dream. And that dream looked like UCONN, like it did for so many young players. UCONN wasn't just a program, it was the mountaintop, the dynasty, the place where legends were made. Clark said it herself. She wanted that call. She wanted Geno to recruit her, not because she needed validation, but because when the greatest coach of all time calls you, it means something. It tells you that you belong. But the phone never rang. No call, no conversation, no real effort. Geno didn't reach out to Clark directly. He didn't call her parents. The most he did was pass along faint interest through an AAU coach. For someone known as the ultimate talent evaluator, that silence spoke louder than any rejection letter ever could. The explanation came later. UConn alum. Reddy had Paige Buchers. Geno said he didn't want 2-point guards. Then came the part that crossed the line. He suggested that if Caitlin Clark really wanted UConn, she should have called him. Think about that for a moment. A teenage recruit, a generational talent, being told she should chase the coach who built his reputation on chasing players exactly like her. That wasn't a strategy. That wasn't roster management. That was dismissal. And it sent a message she never forgot. Clark didn't complain. She didn't take shots in interviews. She didn't try to force her way into a system that didn't want her. She simply remembered, and she made a decision that changed the sport forever. She chose Iowa. No banners, no automatic spotlight, no dynasty infrastructure. To outsiders, it looked like settling. But to Clark, it was freedom. At Iowa, she wasn't a backup plan or an accessory. She was the centerpiece. The program belonged to her. The offense belonged to her. The pressure belonged to her. And from the very first game, everything shifted. Those deep logo threes weren't just highlights. They were statements. Every packed arena wasn't hype. It was confirmation. Every viral clip wasn't luck. It was inevitable. Clark didn't just score points. She pulled people into the sport, families, casual fans, first-time viewers. She made women's basketball unavoidable. Television ratings exploded. Arenas sold out. Records fell. And with every bucket, the same quiet message echoed louder and louder. You missed this. Instead of reflection, Geno doubled down. Rather than acknowledge what was unfolding, he leaned into dismissive commentary. He referred to Clark as a kid, said she played like she was just messing around in a driveway, framed her game as casual, small. But small doesn't fill Madison Square Garden. Small doesn't shatter viewership records. Small doesn't drag an entire sport into the mainstream spotlight. Clark was doing all of that without him. And that's where the balance of power started to shift. As Clark's profile grew, Geno found ways to keep himself connected to the conversation. Anytime her name came up, Paige Buchers wasn't far behind. If Clark was fearless, Paige was fearless first. If Clark connected with fans, Paige already had. The comparisons weren't accidental. They were strategic. By tying Clark's rise back to players from his system, Geno kept his fingerprints on a story that no longer belonged to him. But fans noticed, analysts noticed, coaches noticed. The pattern became obvious. Clark didn't need qualifiers. She was pulling crowds bigger than most pro teams. She was rewriting record books. She was reshaping how women's basketball was discussed. And Geno, smiling for cameras, was quietly gripping a throne that was already slipping away. Then came June of 2024. On the Dan Patrick Show, Geno crossed a line he couldn't walk back. He didn't just critique Caitlin Clark's game. He targeted her supporters. He called her fan base delusional, said they were disrespecting WNBA players, mocked the idea that Clark could finish near the top of MVP voting as a rookie. He labeled those fans ignorant, unknowledgeable, even stupid. According to him, their excitement was hurting women's basketball. Pause on that. At the exact moment women's basketball was experiencing unprecedented growth, Geno's response wasn't gratitude, it wasn't exciting, it was resentment. New viewers were tuning in, kids were lining up for autographs. Jerseys were everywhere. And instead of welcoming the momentum, he pushed against it. By dismissing Clark's fans, he dismissed the movement itself. The message was clear. The buzz was fake. The hype would fade. Reality would catch up. That was the bet he made. And it collapsed in real time. Clark didn't respond online. She didn't trade quotes. She didn't fuel the drama. She let the season speak. She won Rookie of the Year. She earned all WNBA first-team honors. And when MVP voting was finalized, she finished exactly where those delusional fans predicted. The prediction Geno mocked became fact. And with it, his credibility took a hit. This wasn't just about awards. It was about authority. The fans he dismissed understood the moment better than he did. They saw the future. Clark validated every one of them without ever mentioning his name. No speeches, no clapping back, just results. Night after night of deep threes, clean crossovers, and performances that spoke louder than any interview ever could. By the end of her rookie season, the narrative had shifted. Geno's remarks aged badly. What once sounded confident now sounded defensive, bitter, outdated. And being wrong was something he struggled to accept. Instead of stepping back, he leaned in harder. More interviews, more podcasts, more commentary. Her name stayed in his mouth. And every time it surfaced, the same pattern followed. Praise wrapped in a warning. Compliments padded with doubt. It became obvious. Caitlin Clark wasn't just breaking records. She was living rent-free in his head. Eventually, commentary stopped working. Influence couldn't be maintained through words alone. So Geno tried something else. Money. Behind the scenes, a new venture was forming. A 3-on-3 women's basketball league backed by stars like Breanna Stewart and Nafisa Collier. Ambitious, well-funded, innovative on paper. But I'm missing one thing. Identity. It needed a face, a magnet, a player who could bring fans, sponsors, and instant legitimacy. And there was only one name that could do that. Caitlin Clark. Geno was heavily involved as an investor, quiet at first, strategic. And then the move came. Reports surfaced of an offer worth over $1 million for just 8 weeks of play. one of the largest offers ever made to a women's basketball player. Let that sink in. The same coach who once couldn't make a recruiting call was now putting 7 figures on the table. The same voice that questioned her popularity was suddenly trying to cash in on it. The irony was brutal. The fans he mocked were now essential. The hype he dismissed was now the product. And if Geno could land Clark, he could reshape the narrative. He could argue her rise was still connected to his influence, still part of his empire, still under his control. But Clark saw it for what it was. This wasn't an opportunity. It was a test, a last attempt to reclaim power. Her response was immediate. No counter, no explanation, no hesitation. One word: no. That single decision did more damage than any public feud ever could. She didn't need his money. She didn't need his platform. She didn't need his validation. The man who once overlooked her was now asking for help, and she declined quietly. The fallout was instant. Without Clark, the league lost its center of gravity. The massive offer stopped looking bold and started looking desperate. Fans understood exactly what happened. The project needed her far more than she ever needed it. And by walking away, she exposed that truth without saying a word. This wasn't revenge in the traditional sense. No shouting, no celebration, just absence. And that silence landed harder than anything else. It marked the end of an era. Geno Auriemma, long considered a gatekeeper of the sport, was no longer essential. His greatest mistake wasn't overlooking Clark early. It was believing women's basketball couldn't thrive without him. Clark proved otherwise. She built something independent, without borrowed prestige, without permission. And by rejecting that offer, she sent a message far bigger than one contract. Power has shifted. The future belongs to the players, not the gatekeepers. And that lesson extends beyond Geno. It's a warning to every coach, executive, and power broker still clinging to control. Caitlin Clark didn't ask to be crowned. She didn't demand influence. She earned it. Through fans, through numbers, through undeniable impact. One quiet decision exposed a system that thought it would last forever. And moments like this are happening more often than people realize. Behind the scenes, away from headlines, quiet power shifts that redefine the game. That's why stories like this matter, and why they don't always get told. But the truth is simple. Women's basketball has changed. The old model is fading. And Caitlin Clark didn't just step into the future, she made it impossible to ignore. If you want the real stories shaping the next era of basketball, stay locked in, because the next power shift is already happening.